Hello and welcome to Epiphytic Cacti. Today I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to a seller of Epiphyllum I have had just nothing but absolutely wonderful experiences with. This year I had several plants that are, about 2 years old, started from cutting 2 years ago, bloom. The vast majority of them actually came from her. It can be kind of difficult sometimes whenever you are first getting into Epiphyllum because you'll just get your cuttings and get your plants from wherever you can. And it's always a little bit stressful because you have to wait for like 2 years usually for them to bloom. And so, you don't necessarily know, and you can get like a lot of no IDs and stuff like that. But to date, with this seller, I have never had that experience. Everything that I have ever purchased from her in every way has bloomed exactly what it was labeled. So I've never had that experience. They're always really nice cuttings. They're generally pretty well priced. I think that there's a trend kind of going on that I see sometimes where, the price tags of Epiphyllum seems to be getting higher and higher and higher. And I always, I understand it, but I also feel like that's somewhat bad for the hobby. So, I do tend to appreciate sellers that tend to keep their prices more reasonable. I appreciate that very much. I have a huge collection, so I can't, and I buy a lot of them, so I can't just, I can't buy $300 cuttings like every time I buy a cutting, no matter how beautiful they are. That's never really going to work out well. Because another thing that I think is amazing about this seller is that she has a tendency to carry a large variety with a certain level of uniqueness. Maybe I can get a Kiwi from her, like a really popular Kiwi, but I can also get kind of an older hybrid, Beauty Wagner. Beauty Wagner is a hybrid that I got from her. So where I can get like really flashy, beautiful, like newer hybrids, I can also find some of those like really classic old hybrids that you just don't see very often. She carries a lot of German hybrids and stuff like that too. So it's really, really just kind of a wide variety, and whatever comes up is whatever comes up there. But I have seen her sell Epiphyllum that I've never really seen anywhere else. She sells only on eBay to my knowledge, and her eBay username, I can't give you her real name because that, privacy. So even if you have bought from her and you do know who she is, please don't use her real name. Please don't comment about her real name at all. So her username on eBay is actually VAN0508. So Van0508. And I have legitimately been purchasing cuttings from her for 2 years now. There really are not a lot of Epiphyllum sellers, not the way that there used to be, because there actually used to be like stores, like actual stores that specialized, plant stores that specialized in that sort of thing. And it seems to be more and more rare where we go down the line of actually private collectors who then just end up being, sellers at the same time. So I do believe that she is like a hobbyist. I believe she has a lot of plants, but I still believe that she's a hobbyist and not just like your immediate front end store. But every communication that I've had with her, every dealing that I've ever had with her has been absolutely pleasant and absolutely wonderful. I have absolutely zero complaints. A+, and I'm not the kind of person that, just gives props without a reason to be giving props to someone. So these are actually 2 orders. Some of these are a little bit older, so they are a little, they've been sitting out. I actually think this is about a month old. So I have my potting mix because I'm definitely due for potting these. So I think here, Rick Latimer is actually a hybrid that I have already purchased from her, but I wanted more of it because I thought that it was really interesting. Just a really interesting hybrid. So there's a third cutting of that somewhere in there, but here was Rick Latimer. Oh, there's the other one of Rick Latimer. There you go. So they're really nice cuttings. They're really healthy. These are always my favorite kinds of cuttings, the kind that taper off like this, because they root the best, they grow the best. I think they're fantastic. Tiny Jewel. There you go. These are also about a month old. I need to get on top of it. Kiwi Thrill Seeker. So that's what I mean. You can get like some of the fancier, newer hybrids from her sometimes, but then you can, there's another Kiwi Thrill Seeker. But you can also, like I said, get classics, like Rick Latimer is actually an older hybrid and one that you just don't hear about. it's really beautiful, but you just don't hear about it. Acapulco Sunset, always, of course, like an absolute classic. Everybody, if you don't know what Acapulco Sunset is, then you're missing out. These are also a month old. I'm ashamed of my... It's okay that they're a month old. I think sometimes people think that their cuttings will, go by the wayside or whatever, but that's not necessarily true. So Acapulco Sunset, they can really last without being potted for quite a while. Meadowlark. I actually lost Meadowlark. I had it before and then I lost it. It was kind of a really tragic, strange thing. It like got knocked down, the roots broke off, and I repotted it and it was okay, but then it like started doing strange things, and I just kind of gave up on it and was like, let's just try that again. So Meadowlark. Meadowlark is not a real old hybrid, but it's also not like the newest hybrid, but it's a really gorgeous hybrid. And she actually told me that Meadowlark is a hybrid that you absolutely have to have in your collection, and I 10,000% trust her opinion on that. Here's a really new, much newer hybrid. It's yellow, but it's a funny color of yellow. Like, it's almost going into like an orangey yellow, but it's not orange. It's definitely not orange. It's yellow, but it like in Epiphyllum, you'll see like a lot of pale yellow, sometimes more of a lemony kind of yellow. This one is actually veering towards the side of like an orangey yellow, but it's definitely yellow, if that makes sense. Bold gold. I have a confession to make. I actually realized one day that I had no yellow Epiphyllum in my collection. And actually yellow, we did a poll on one of the Facebook groups once about like what was the most popular like Epiphyllum color, people's favorite Epiphyllum color, and it was yellow. And I'm just not the biggest fan of the color yellow. And it was really interesting because I realized that in my whole collection, I just legitimately didn't really have a yellow hybrid. And it seemed like I had kind of an aversion to having yellow hybrids. And so I actually forced myself to go out and buy a bunch of different kinds of yellow hybrids because I felt like I was doing myself a disservice or something. So now I'm not so afraid, because actually one of the other plants that I had bloom this year was Chardonnay Twist, which I had purchased from her. And it is the only large yellowish Epiphyllum flower that I've ever seen. And it was absolutely gorgeous. So there's a reason why people like yellow so much. And I'm glad that I made myself go buy those yellow hybrids, because I would have been missing out just on having a casual aversion to a color. So bold gold, very yellow, very excited. Also more of a, is one of those where it's a little bit more kind of a sought after kind of hybrid for its color. Ophelia. So I'm very excited about this. Ophelia is a white hybrid, but it's a white multi-petaled hybrid. In my opinion, there are a few white hybrids that really stand out to me. And Alpine White is one of them. And Casper is another one of them. And Ophelia is one of them. And so I'm really excited to have Ophelia. I actually have another Ophelia floating around somewhere in my collection, but it never hurts to have more of something that you like very much, unless there's so much of it that, it's taking over your living space. But there's only, I don't have enough Ophelia to take over my living space, so we're good. Sarah Thompson. Sarah Thompson is actually a hybrid that I got from her last year. And another really strange story about the Epiphyllum and the colors or whatever. So when I saw Sarah Thompson's flower, I did think it was very pretty, but it was not the color or anything like that was striking to me. I thought the petals were interesting. The back petals, namely. But it was something that I didn't really jump at first. I wasn't all that interested in it at first. And then as time kind of went on, I kept seeing it and I kept seeing it. And it was like, I bought it not because I liked it that much, so much as I bought it for the traits that I thought that it could pass on for hybridizing. And this is another thing where I was just proven massively wrong, because the first time I saw that thing bloom, and I bought it from her as an actual plant last year, and the first time it came, it had buds on it, and then it bloomed, and I was just like, oh my goodness, talk about, it was just gorgeous. And I mean, just gorgeous. And so I think I was like, you need to stop with your weird aversions to colors when it comes to Epiphyllum, because, you know, in pictures and stuff like that, like maybe you think that you don't like yellow, or maybe you think that you don't like pink, but you know, in person, a lot of times those colors are so totally, like, it's very hard to describe what Epiphyllum truly look like in person, because they are, it's like they have some kind of inner kind of glow that comes out in person that does not translate in pictures. And so, you know, in any case, Sierra Thompson is actually legitimately my favorite flower, my favorite Epiphyllum flower, bar none, hands down. And, you know, I've had other really spectacular things bloom for me. No, Sierra Thompson is bar none my favorite Epiphyllum flower. And I'm sure it will be for a very long time. I think it would be very hard to have something dethrone a flower that gorgeous. So I had cut mine and just kind of given it to people, because a lot of times I feel very strongly, like if I feel very, very strongly about a very specific hybrid, I feel that it is very important to get it out there into people's hands. And so, you know, like I cut mine, even though it wasn't the biggest plant in the world, like I still cut it and like I gave it to these people because I felt like it was important to have it out there in the world. One of the people is a budding seller, and the other one is just a friend. But, you know, at the same time, I feel like these are people that are likely to, you know, share. So like as theirs grow, they'll share, and, you know, so on and so forth. And so it's a hybrid that's worth having out there and should be out there. And I think everybody, you know, like people need to enjoy it. So I actually went back to her and I asked her if she had more. Now, I only bought 2 cuttings from her, but she sent me a 3rd. And so what's funny is that I didn't even buy these for myself. I wanted them because this one is going to a friend, and then this one is going to another friend, and then this one is going to a new friend. So that's really exciting. And then I think that the last one that I had purchased from her was Curtain Call. And so Curtain Call is actually something that I had got from somewhere else, because I think it's a really striking hybrid with, you know, lots of petals, and it's like kind of a red, might be a reddish orange. I don't know. It looks different in different pictures. So I think that it is a really cool hybrid, particularly for, sometimes I only buy them out of like, you know, like Sierra Thompson. Sometimes I only buy something because I think that there is some trait that it has that I think would be interesting for hybridizing. And so I buy it to just kind of like see how it grows and what happens. And so Curtain Call is one of those. But the one that I got originally, I got from someone that I'm not entirely, I got from a resource that I think is questionable. You know, like in the community, in the Epiphyllum community, if you kind of earn a reputation, particularly if you continuously mislabel and distribute plants. It's and by distribute I mean like sell plants, because to me there is a big difference between getting a free mislabeled plant versus purchasing a mislabeled plant. And I think that there is a degree to which you can possibly get away with that kind of thing just because, you know, mistakes happen. That's reality. But I think that there are situations where some people just maybe don't care. And I think this person has a very strong reputation for continuously distributing like mislabeled things. So I decided to get this from my eBay resource, from this really excellent seller on eBay, because then I feel like I'm not nervous and I don't have to have like real serious doubts as to its identity. Even though I'm going to say, like, no matter how good of a seller you are, I understand when mistakes happen, because they do happen, and that's understandable. And, you know, with Epiphyllum, it's like, it's kind of a thing, because you're usually waiting for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes even longer for them to bloom from cutting. And so if it's mislabeled, it can be kind of a real letdown. You know, I think a handful of times this year I had things that bloomed from not from her, but from other sources that, you know, it was kind of a disappointment because it was like there was some things I was really looking forward to, but then they were just, you know, mislabeled, and you know, it's a little bit of a letdown. It's a little bit of a disappointment. But so that's why it's always like when you have hybrids that you very strongly want to collect or that you want, you know, you definitely want to find a really good resource like her to, you know, continue to get things from, because then you don't have to feel super worried about whether or not what you got is what you got. So, you know, having said that, you know, go check her out. It is, again, VAN0508 was your username. And I will, you know, there'll be like a little screen thing here, a little thing up on the screen for her username and everything. And I'm going to go pot these guys up right now and do the right thing by them. Yeah. So thank you for watching, and happy cacti growing.